A very warm regards from Pristine. The topic we will be covering today is Enterprise Information Risk as a part of PRM 3. Let's go back to 2008 to understand some of the major reasons for failure of firms like Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers. In addition to some of the well-known reasons like over-leverage, liquidity crunch, non-diversification of risks, complexity, and not much understanding of products. One of the little known reasons was inefficient risk management systems. Inefficient risk management systems was in terms of inadequate sharing of information, be it qualitative or quantitative. To begin with, risk capturing and monitoring within an organization must be done in a bottom-up manner. Thus, organizations usually follow a bottom-up approach. Once the individual risks are captured at unit level, proper communication and dissemination of information is essential so the same can be understood by all the stakeholders. Thus, in a firm A, there are three different subunits: Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. There might be several risks which might be emerging in each of these units. Let's assume risk 1 emerges in Unit 1, risk 2 in Unit 2, and risk 3 in Unit 3. By bottom-up approach, we mean that we'll be capturing first risk 1, risk 2, risk 3, and then try to aggregate them at a firm-wide level. Risk profile of an organization changes continuously, which may either be due to firm-specific changes or market-specific changes. Effective monitoring is essential to capture the dynamic risk profile. In case of operations like trading, the profile changes more frequently or dynamically as compared to more traditional business of lending by banks. Frequency of monitoring is a function of the kind of business one engages in. Effective monitoring, however, requires that information should be available in a timely manner. Inefficient risk information capturing may be in terms of either risk 1, risk 2, and risk 3 may not be getting captured properly, and in case they get captured properly, the aggregation of these three risks at the firm-wide level may not be happening in a proper manner. Firms where communication practices are good seem to mitigate risks much better. Processes must be set in place so that all risks, which may either be due to internal factors or external factors, are captured and communicated to all the stakeholders. Thus, risks may be either internal or external to the organization. Processes should be designed in a way that both of these are captured. Generally, it happens that organizations focus more on external risks or risks which are dependent on external factors. However, they fail to recognize that majority of the risks are internal to them. Example, let's consider an example where all risks are captured by different units, but these units do not interact on a day-to-day basis. For example, let's assume the legal unit, which exists in most of the financial institutions, not interacting with the credit risk unit. It may happen that due to inefficient communication between these two units, operational risks like improper documentation or frauds may arise. Thus, it may happen that in organization A, there might be legal risks and credit risk. Typically, organization A would be a bank. In case the legal unit only captures this risk and the credit risk or the risk management unit captures only the credit risk. If there is no proper information sharing between these two units, it might happen that documentation which is submitted by the client may be improper or fraudulent. Thus, it becomes very important that information sharing between these two units and also the aggregation of information at bank-wide level is done in a proper manner. Before we move on to the issue of information availability, we must first try to understand what a good information risk system consists of. A good ERM system or an enterprise risk management system will consist of well documented risk policies, good methodologies and processes, and the right infrastructure. When we are talking about risk policies, we want to ensure that all the stakeholders within the organization are aware of the best practices to be followed. Good methodologies and processes should be in place so that all relevant risks get captured. Right infrastructure refers to either the hardware to capture the risk or good data capturing systems so that all relevant information is available. Now, coming down to the point of information availability, one of the major challenges faced by organizations is information may not be available, and even if it is available, it may not be reliable and applicable. Some of the reasons that hinder availability of data are historical data not being available, data not being complete, detailed data not being present, and the fourth being data not being of right quality or good quality. Let's discuss them in detail. In case of products like structured products like CDOs, MBSs, sufficient history may not be available, and in case some risk measures are available, they may not be used for future monitoring primarily because of their complex nature. In case of CDS, CDOs, MBS, which are distributed by financial institutions, data may not be complete, and this may have to be taken from third-party information providers, but this will result in additional costs. Lack of detailed data is similar to data not being available. The last reason being low quality data contains more noise and may not provide the right risks posed to the organization and the relevant stakeholders. Quality issues can arise because lack of data integrity, data being available but meaning not clear, and lack of timely access of data. This low quality data could be either because meaning not interpreted properly, source data containing a lot of noise, correct source data available but after a lot of lag or not in a timely manner. In case the right quality data is not available, we must try to understand how we can resolve the data shortfall issues. We must first try to assess the present state where we are sitting, that is the current state. There might be a lot of data issues present. Next, we must design the future state, that is the state where we wish to be or the desired state. Then we must design strategies so that we can move from the current state to the future state. This will involve a lot of planning and investment. But only planning and investment will not be suffice, and a lot of implementation must be done so that we can move from the current state to the future state. Data quality shortfalls should be overcome not only qualitatively but also quantitatively. Thus, generally what we understand by data shortfalls is that quantitatively data is not available. But in most of the cases, it happens that the right quality data is not available, which results in the shortfall. Data quality issues is not a technical problem, but must be considered as an organizational problem. First, we must understand the current state where we are sitting, look at what we aspire to have in the future, and accordingly fix the gaps. Proper planning and implementation of planned steps will ensure that data shortfalls are overcome. It has been observed that many organizations view data in a quantitative manner rather than viewing them qualitatively. Data quality issues are one of the top reasons for organizations not being able to implement good risk management practices. Following are the 8 criterion to evaluate the quality of information within the firm. The first point is integration of the information, which refers to collection and relating all the relevant data. The second point is integrity of the data, which is nothing but accuracy. The third is data completeness. Fourth, data being easily accessible. Fifth, flexibility of data so that data can be used for different purposes or different analysis. Extensibility of data to new environments, timeliness of data, and auditability of data in terms of what it conveys explicitly. This auditability of data would refer to what the piece of data is explicitly conveying to the stakeholders. Holistic risk management system link users of information to producers of the same. The figure below shows all the 7 components required for a holistic risk information management system. The innermost circle represents the data availability. The 4 peripheral components represent the environment to access the data. These 4 components consist of data privacy and security, data quality, master data management, and metadata. The outer components provide the management support to the environment. The outer components consist of data governance and data stewardship. Let's try to understand the diagram in detail. To begin with, there should be a good and logical data model and business views which will help ensure that all users of data have proper access to the data they need. This good data model and business views will ensure that correct and reliable data is available to all the users. It doesn't represent business specific data requirements, but it's more of a data architecture needed for effective data management. Business views refer to the process which ensures that data representation is similar to the user. Once the data is in right form and shape, next thing to be ensured is that the data privacy and security conditions are being met. Moving next, we come to master data management or reference data, which is the minimum data which is required so as to not impact the information quality. The next is data quality in terms of data being complete, accurate enough and reliable. The fourth circle represents metadata, which is nothing but the data semantics. Next, moving to the outer periphery, we have data governance, which will ensure the oversight of top management on data environment. And finally, it is data stewardship, which includes various data management processes, such as how data quality is maintained. Finally, let us come down to the success factors of implementing a risk information management environment. Implementation of a risk information system must be accompanied by proper business requirements being captured. Thus, in case the business requirements are not captured adequately, though information systems will be present, there will be a barrier between these two. In case both of them are captured and both of them are able to communicate with each other, only probably then we can say that at an organizational level, information systems are successful. However, incremental implementation of risk information systems is usually viewed as beneficial. However, incremental implementation of risk information systems is usually viewed as beneficial since it does not impact day-to-day business requirements. Thus, this interaction should happen in an incremental manner so that my day-to-day business is not impacted. Finally, let us move on to the components of as-is to to-be environment. As-is nothing but my present state where I am sitting, and to-be refers to the future state or the desired state. The components for moving from the present state to the future state consist of assessing the current state, determining where I want to be or determining the future state, developing a roadmap so that I can move from the current state to the future state, and finally implementing this roadmap in incremental steps so as not to hinder my day-to-day activities. Thank you.